Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. The first thing I want to talk about today, with a lot to cover, is just some of the interesting matters of reporting that you're seeing even so far this year, specifically in how quiet it is on the transfer front from a lot of the usual journalists who put out information. I think that the staff shakeup and everything that's going on has a lot of people waiting and wondering on what's actually happening at United. As I mentioned in a previous video, I think, Andy Mitten mentioned that compared to last year, they had concrete targets. They pretty much knew who United were signing. We did as well, that it was, Sancho and Varane or Pau Torres as far back as February. This year is obviously quite a bit different. And it's not a knock on the journalists, but the simple fact is the club is obviously not communicating things the same way that they were before and not passing things along as much. Or maybe some of the people who are leaving are not involved, were people who would pass along information. There's just a difference in the communications from the club, and it makes it a little harder to read. That being said, usually you'd be seeing a lot of reports right now. But to be clear on it, one thing you have to think with is just because you're not hearing things doesn't mean nothing's happening. And just because you don't hear about something doesn't mean it can't be being worked on. They've been very busy, and it's quite interesting just how quiet it's been. For, an example of this, even take the Frankie de Jong thing. Nobody in England said anything about it. And then apparently comes out of Spain, they go ask, and all this news suddenly comes out. So you might see that with a lot of cases this summer. For example, and one we'll discuss in a moment, is Timber. The first story in a while today came from Pletterberg from Germany. So we'll see, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm just saying, keep an eye out this summer for different sources, and it may be a summer of change in terms of the evaluation of who has information, who doesn't, and who is, accurate for reporting. A lot of different people have gotten, interesting kind of first-time information this summer. Or this year so far. I mean, for example, ESPN, Dawson and Ogden were the first to break the story on selecting Ten Hag as the permanent manager. Luckhurst has put out something on Phillips that nobody else has really mentioned yet. Dawson again was the first to break the story on Ten Hag's meeting with Murtaugh and company last week. So a lot of people have different kind of sources. I mean, even 6 weeks ago, they were talking about Harry Kane being the top target for striker. Is that still the case? I don't think so. But it could be still that they haven't heard anything else, many people. So it's just something to look out for this summer, how different the reporting might be. One would hope it's quiet, moves quickly, and the major deals get done without too much problem compared to usual. But let's talk about Timber first. Back on April 13th, we put in the Discord and did tweet about it that one of our sources said discussions were set to be had with his representatives. This apparently occurred around April 20th to the 25th. And I can also say with some certainty that Ten Hag did bring him up in interviews, and he would be his most wanted Ajax player. In terms of priority discussions from positions at United, he makes a lot more sense than someone like Antony, who'd be 60 million, 80 million for a wide player, which is something United want, but there's still a lot of options out there to evaluate in terms of Pellistri, Garnacho, Ahmad, and the options that United have. Rashford staying, Ronaldo staying, Sancho here. It's more likely they spend in other areas before that wide player position. So, and obviously things can change on that side of it, but he did bring him up in interviews, and it was a player he asked for and that he wanted from Ajax. It makes a lot of sense for United when you compare to the Pau Torres things, which I believe are true as well, in terms of looking at a center back. If you're replacing Bailly and Jones, Pau Torres is very expensive and a player who probably wants more minutes at center back. If you're getting a versatile player like Timber, he could probably play center back in rotation games in League Cup and Europa League. He's not as physical, so some of the Premier League might be difficult, but he can also play right back. And he could cover right back. And honestly, he'd probably bench both of ours and Dalot and Wan-Bissaka and could, and so there's some versatility there. I think there's a deal to be made here. They didn't want to mess with Ajax during the title run until the end of the season. Now that it's all done, now that Ten Hag has terminated his contract, now that he's left and working for United, there's no conflict of interest here and things can actually get going, especially on a deal like this. Personally, my opinion is it could be a bit of a gift to Ten Hag, a versatile player who can cover both positions, who has can be kind of a problem solver and has a lot of potential, who knows his style of play, who fits in it, and who can provide us with something that we may be lacking at the back. It would also allow us to forego an expensive center-back signing for that fourth center-back slot, free up a right-back to be sold, and in essence that means it could probably pay for itself, leaving the entire transfer budget, 125 million or so, for that midfield and the forward position, which again could cover, if you think about it, it could cover Nunez, who we'll talk about in a moment, Frankie de Jong if it happens, and Calvin Phillips, all with the budget based on the named prices, and that would be pretty good. Nunez, Calvin Phillips, Frankie de Jong, and Timber would be a hell of a window to start the rebuild, the whole spine kind of rebuilt there. So we'll see. But I do think there's something in this, and it's one to watch as we move forward. There's obviously something in it. It was reported by Plettenberg today that United had spoken with his reps already, that they're very interested, and that they'd be looking to make a move for him. So I think there is something to look here. Bayern are looking at him, but they're still looking at other positions, plenty of other positions as well. Something United have to move quick on, I think. So on to the next one on Darwin Nunez. Again, Ornstein today mentioned only United by name in his column. His column was about how Benfica were looking at a replacement for Nunez and they had someone line up, that he's basically sure to leave, that he's got a lot of serious interest, including Manchester United. So serious interest reported from David Ornstein in Darwin Nunez. And that's the only team he named in his column. And interestingly, he gave a better price than a lot of what's out there of only 60 million euros. I think there's definitely something in that, and when Ornstein keeps linking us, it has to be true. I've been on this one a while, if you've been following, I've not just wanted them to sign, but back in February stated that his agent, his representatives, which were different than the Mendes-related representatives now, were set to meet clubs across Europe in March to formalize the interest. From that discussion, United did formalize some interest, and there's obviously a lot in this. Again, our information was that he's willing to join, that he'd be pretty happy with the terms on offer. That's usually the first thing that you do in pursuit of this. Now it comes down to a deal with Benfica. And perhaps this reporting through Ornstein is giving a bit of encouragement to United to move forward with it. The other main option that was there for striker kind of isn't a striker, is Nkunku, but based on one of their directors, since they secured Champions League, the reports from Germany were that he would re-sign with a release clause for next summer. It seems like that's probably what's going to happen. They said he's not leaving this year. So we'll see there, but it seems likely. Now, we have Ronaldo, and there's a lot more reports recently. It seems like that Ronaldo is going to stay. Talk from Ten Hag, talks from Ronaldo. That's something we figured for quite some time and expected that he would be staying. I've heard that he's going to fulfill his contract and not much is going on otherwise. That being said, I think it'd be really silly, it's just my personal opinion on this, if something were, okay, I'll give my opinion on this and we'll talk about something else in a moment. I think it'd be really silly if the club went a different route for the forward and didn't sign an out-and-out striker like Darwin Nunez who can do that. Now, obviously, Nunez can play on the wing on the left as well, but it'd be really silly to not get a striker and leave us reliant on only Ronaldo to having a real number 9 profile for 30 of the 60 games or more. If we play 60 games on average with Europa League, Ronaldo shouldn't be starting more than 30. And even in 30, he's not been fresh for all of those. But we need to have that second option who becomes the first option over time. Next summer, needing 2 strikers is a bad idea in terms of recruitment. It puts you under so much pressure, makes it very difficult to get the deals, and you don't know who's going to be available at that point in time. So I think it would be very smart to get Nunez. Now, The other thing is they've obviously been in pursuit of a striker for a long time. They've been talking to Ten Hag for a long time about recruitment, so I don't think that something's changed in the last week with regards to recruitment and all of that. It was even reported by Lowry Whitwell that meeting last week with Murtaugh and such was not a recruitment meeting, so I don't think they're redoing the targets. They've already been talking regularly. They've already been working regularly. I think it's just about moving forward on things now as well. So hopefully they do move forward on this deal now with Benfica, and some news should come out. Again, it's another one where I should be getting some news soon as well. Regarding Frankie de Jong, I haven't heard anything else yet. There's nothing new. When I have it, I'll pass it along. I'm still waiting for any indication he wants to join, as it's been avoided by nearly everyone, and the only reports that keep coming out in England are Barcelona need to sell, United are interested. All well and good. I'm waiting for, he's excited by the project. He's enthused by the idea of working with Erik Ten Hag again. Those are the reports you want to see. Those are the reports you got about Sancho. Those are the reports you got about Varane. Those are the ones that tell you that he's willing to join United, because he was not willing to join United before. It was not his preference. I'm 100% sure of that at one point in time not that long ago. But per Samuel Luckhurst, Ten Hag has contacted his reps to gauge the interest. Maybe he can convince him, especially now that he's not working for Ajax and he's working for United. Maybe that can progress it further, but we wait to find the outcome of those discussions and see if they're going to move further with it. On the defensive midfielder position, there's Calvin Phillips, Conrad Lamer, and Paulinho. I believe these are the three names of defensive midfielders to think with, eliminating some of the others for other reasons. Declan Rice on price, we know, unless somehow a cut price deal becomes available. Chouameni, who seems to not have interest in United. And then Basuma is of interest, but he has this legal case, and I just cannot see them overstepping that. So I believe Phillips is the preferred option here, especially if Leeds go down. He'd be available at a very good fee. It makes a lot of sense, and this is all separate to the Frankie de Jong pursuit. So I think after the final match day, then things will pick up on that side of it as well. Otherwise, things should really get going now. The report came out, obviously, Ten Hag terminated his contract. He's working for United now. He's not taking over working on the coaching or the what's happening on the pitch this week, but he is going to be essentially doing everything else. That means recruitment, that means evaluating the staff, that means working on getting potentially more staff. Still keeping an eye on guys like René Mollenstein and such from before. Finalizing McLaren and Vandergaag, perhaps even meeting and talking to agents and reps with Murtaugh on recruitment. And that's just speculation, but there is a lot to do. So I'm sure he wants to get started on all of that right away. And now things can really get into full swing. A few times I was told as a last little bit that he wanted 2 players in by that preseason, which for early training apparently starts June 20th. So we will see if that happens, but it really should be time for things to get going now in earnest. I do think United are trying to move forward and secure some deals fast, as they really don't have a free run at anyone. Nunez, Phillips, even Timber, there's not a free run at them. Frankie de Jong, there's going to be interest from other clubs. There just will. That Pogba deal could have repercussions. If he goes to Juventus, PSG may become... They're absolutely looking for a midfielder. They could certainly go for Frankie de Jong as well. They have the money. They'll have the wages. They can offer a lot. So they've got to move quick to secure some targets. I also think it's possible that Ten Hag being in now and being able to talk to reps and to players and to agents and all of that, helping to explain the role of them, how they would fit into his plans, how they would fit into his team, can be part of what helps convince players to come without Champions League. I think that is going to be a key part of recruitment this summer. So that's what I've got for now. I hope that covers everything. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave your comments below with thoughts, and I will certainly keep you updated very regularly as new information comes in. Thanks for watching. As a short PS, there's been, I mentioned yesterday that the fight between the 2 United players was not Maguire and Lingard, or the story that was floating around out there. That's been confirmed by Luckhurst today. I mentioned I don't really like the weird 21 questions hinting thing he's done. I think it just leads to worse kind of speculation, but I mentioned to quite a few people yesterday who it was, and it's already there's a lot of people who can vouch for that, and it's already kind of leaked out there, the actual names, but it wasn't a big deal. And I don't think it's something that people should worry about. I think it's important that you shouldn't get too invested in kind of the clickbait that goes on about how dramatic it was. These things happen kind of all the time, and it wasn't really some massive problem. Nobody is bloodied and bruised or anything like that. So it's not a big thing, but it did involve two passionate players who will be here next year, who are some personal favorites as well. So that's all. And again, thank you. I'll see you in the next video.